Yes. Greetings to our YouTube family that's already here, ready, waiting. Time to go. Just drop your name in the chat and let me know who I have joining me and where you are from. Just drop your name in the chat and let me know who I have joining me and where you are from. So I just muted my mic because I was hearing a feedback a while ago and I'm not sure where it was coming from. So I just muted my mic because I was hearing a feedback. Opening the mic again to see if I found all the tabs that were open and causing that feedback. Excellent. We are good to go. All right, so doing another mic check. If you can hear me and you haven't already, please drop your name inside our chat box and let me know where you are listening from, which city and which country. Greetings to my good sister in Shakira Moore in Toronto, Canada. I was very happy to see your particular update that you have received your planner. Let me know how it's going for you. We are going to touch a little bit on how you can use the planner to implement some of the strategies I'm going to talk about. Cleon Davis, hi there. Tell me where you're from. Ramona, Happy Philly Love, Yasmin Cunningham, Kimberly, Shakira Morgan from Montego Bay in Jamaica. Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. That's where Happy Philly is from. Thank you for making time. Miss Bumper B from Kingston, Jamaica. Yasmin from St. Anne, Jamaica. Gabrielle from Barbados, who has also received her planner. I'm very invested in the delivery updates. So I'm always happy to see when customers tell us, we get it. It's here. It's in my hand. Anne-Marie Jack from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome to the Eastern Caribbean family that's with us tonight. And Abigail. Hi, Abigail from Texas in the USA. Okay, so this is available on Amazon, and I'm sure you can get it inside the Toronto Amazon store, the Canada Amazon store. This is Shakira Morgan. Sorry, I mixed you up a while ago and I thought I was talking to Shakira Moore, who is in Canada. So these books, we don't have them in stores in Jamaica, which is Kilfair. They are available on Amazon though, and if you purchase them from a platform called guffaglobal.com, they will, and Guffa is located in Jamaica. They will deliver it to you at your Jamaican address. But unfortunately, there is a Kilfair. You can walk in and get them at the Guffa Global storefront, which is in Southdale Plaza in Kingston, but it's much easier if you go on the website and make the purchase, and they will deliver it straight to your door. I'm going to use the opportunity to just drop the link inside the chat for anybody who is in Jamaica and you don't want to wait a long time until it ships to your mailbox in the USA and then gets here through your courier. Guffa Global is a good way to get that within a week. And they do have stock, so it shouldn't take very long for them to turn that around and deliver to you in Jamaica. And of course, Amazon works quickly. Within a week, most of our customers who purchase Kilfair will get a copy. All right, so tonight, we're talking about how to change our behavior so we can achieve more for 2023. Raise your hands if you are tired of fighting with yourself to get yourself to do what you need to do to be successful. Almost every day can feel like a fight if self is not in it with good habits, with a clear mindset, and a disciplined commitment to getting it done no matter the excuses. Raise your hand if that has been a struggle for you. And I can put my hand up. This is Krystal in 2017 with our hand way up in the year, to the point where I had to title 2017 the year of discipline. If there's anybody in my community who has been with me since them time there, the year of discipline is something you're familiar with. In fact, it served as a sort of turning point for me to start doing some more research on what it takes to get the brain to participate in the change so we can achieve these goals that we set out for ourselves. Because make no mistake, every challenge that we're facing to accomplish our goals, it starts and ends between the ears in your brain. It's the thoughts that we have generated around our capacity to do something and to do it well, and the thoughts that come to interrupt us when we have developed a rhythm. It's always a mind game, always a mind game. So in 2017, because it was so bad for me at that point, I wanted to do so many things. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to start my own company. I wanted to be doing speaking. I wanted to be doing training. There's just so much I wanted to do in 2017, and I could not wrap my mind around the kind of confidence and commitment and strategic planning that was necessary to get it done. So all I have is like a bag of plans and zero effort, because every time I'm supposed to take the effort, in comes Mrs. Excuse. She dress up nice and pretty and come to work, and excuses there and some now execute. And every day, as I say, Miss Excuses, she come and she present herself and she get to work mentally. And so I had to title the year a year of discipline and commit myself to doing the work to get the job done. Welcome, Sharon Bennett. I see your greetings. Big up Virgo Boy from Kingston, Jamaica. And yes, to all the people who are being super transparent right now and just raising their hands and talking it like it is. May I struggle with myself to do what I need to do to accomplish my goals. It's a very real crisis. Now, if we want to change the outcomes that we're getting in life, if we want to change what we have in our lives, we have to start by changing our thinking, and that helps us to change our behavior. So while I'm not going to settle too much on the need to change our thought patterns in order to improve how we are functioning in 2023, I want to acknowledge that that is a critical component of it, and we can't go around it, but I will take it for granted that everybody understands the importance of mindset shifts to accomplish our no matter when or what we're setting out to do. So the first thing that I find from the research is very helpful for us to do is to identify the target behavior that we're trying to start or to stop. Now, sometimes we come up with an ambition and a goal to be more successful, to accomplish more of our goals, to win more. And, we say those things, but we have not identified the target behavior. What is the bad habit that you're going to stop doing? Right? What is the thing that you keep doing that is preventing you from taking action? So let me use back my example. I was very good at procrastinating. And because all of these goals are my personal goals, if I don't start, nobody know. It don't cost nobody nothing. Nobody can come check on me and hold me accountable. It's my goal, it's in my head. And it made me tell somebody about it, but I'm mine. So if I'm not showing up to get it done, what's the cost? There's no harm. I lose nothing. So I was able to procrastinate without consequence. And I recognized procrastination was the error, was the flaw, was the fault, was the problem habit. And so what I've started to do, and I've held that particular rhythm ever since then, whatever I say I want to get done, I tag a date to it, and I make a clear announcement to whom it may concern that on this day, I'm going to do this. So I had to set a publishing date for my book. I had to start marketing my book with the book cover to push me to actually complete the writing by that date. So I lock myself into action by stating a very clear deadline. Once I know what the habit is that is preventing me, in that case, it was procrastination. In order for me to beat procrastination, I put pressure on myself to move. Because if I don't have pressure in certain spaces, especially where it involves my individual goals, something that is important to me and it don't cost nobody nothing if I don't do it, if I don't put on the pressure, I don't get started. So I set a date and I make a commitment that I cannot get out of, or a commitment that I will be embarrassed to try and wiggle myself out of. So the first thing I want you to think about is, what is the negative behavior that is preventing you from starting, or when you start, it gets in the way and make you stop? as you're moving towards your goals. Identify that negative behavior. What is the thing that keeps chasing you? The monkey on your back, the dog on your heels, the serpent in the grass. What is the thing that keeps on finding you and stopping you from taking action or interrupting you while you're taking action? And if you're able to come up with that right now, drop it in the chat. What is the behavior that you're trying to cut out? Now, some of us, it can be poor time management. So we are not able to properly assess how much time it will take us to do something. And so we overcommit. Overcommit to doing things in a limited amount of time. And then when we realize that we're not accomplishing the goal, we get even more overwhelmed and flustered, worried that we're going to fail, freeze and don't do nothing because everything cannot get done, and then fail in every arena or deliver subpar work, having to rush to get things done within a particular timeline. So if you have procrastination as an issue and time management as an issue, putting yourself under pressure to get something done, it can have its pluses, but it can also have its minuses. The intention is not to put yourself under pressure if you exist in a space that is already high pressure. So I had to compartmentalize because while I was working in a corporate job that's a high pressure space, I had to decide which window is best based on the work obligations that I have to put this pressure on myself. So if I realize, for example, that March and April or February and March, they're going into the budgeting space, then I can't set no heavy deadline for myself to accomplish a personal goal in February or March. It's going to have to be April or it's going to have to be January so that I'm outside of the pressure space. And the only pressure on me, or the most important version of pressure, or the least pressure, is in a space that is manageable. Excuse me. A space that is manageable in terms of the timelines for the year. So if you have time management and procrastination as an issue, you have to be smart and responsible now in terms of how you're going to turn up the pressure upon your procrastinating self without overwhelming all of your life. If you're in high pressure work, if you're in tight timelines right now, you don't want to put another tight timeline there. There's inflexibility in your schedule right now. So you have to find that. And there's always a season when the calendar is lighter. The calendar is not 100% from 0 to 100, go hard or go home right throughout the year. If that is the case for your life, I would advise that you add no more high pressure goal. Your ambition should actually be to wind down, to pull back, to say no, to clear your plate, so you have space to take on some other big and important goal, right? So that is the caution, that's the caveat in terms of responsibly applying this particular strategy. So name the target behavior. What is the behavior that you're trying to cut out? Maybe it is sleeping through your alarm, right? You don't wake up on time, and so you can't get to the gym. You can't get ahead on your productivity for the day. You always feel rushed heading into the day because you're sleeping through the alarm every morning. Maybe it is what you're putting on your plate and putting in your mouth. Maybe it's the inability to get up and exercise consistently. You're not preparing yourself to do it. So you keep saying that, but today's a bad day, or I forgot the shoes, I forgot the bag, I forgot to register for the gym, I forgot the timing for the classes. You're not properly organized enough to deliver on it. And so you keep missing your gym sessions or failing to even register for a gym membership. So what is the habit? What is the behavior that you're trying to cut out? And the other way to look at this question is, what is the behavior, positive no, so positive habit, that you are trying to implement so that you can set up the right triggers to get it done? In the case of a bad habit, you want to recognize what the triggers are that we want to pull out of. My eyes starting to burn. If you see me blinking a little, guys, my eyes just started to burn me. So I having a little bit of the runs on the right eye. So don't worry, I'm not breaking down in tears thinking about the habits, the bad habits and the good habits that we have to break. Right, so if it is a bad habit, you want to identify the things that trigger you just before you engage in that bad habit. So let's say you have a problem with late night eating. What is the thing that leads you to late night eating? That is the bad habit. You're trying to cut it out. Find the trigger. The trigger for you might be walking into the kitchen and seeing food on the table or on the stove prepared to be eaten. The trigger for you might be the last minute visit that you make to the fridge just to see if everything is okay. And when you open the fridge, you end up opening the freezer and taking out the ice cream. And so you will have to find what that trigger is that leads you to making that step towards the bad habit and pull that trigger out of your process and your routine. The trigger can be a person. Whenever I go around this person, I find myself overeating or over drinking or overspending, right? The trigger might be a standard situation like payday, or when a particular bill is due, you feel a sense of overwhelm and you start overspending, or you forget that you have a budget and start spending off of impulse instead of spending aligned with your anticipated budget for that month. So stop and think about it. I am asking you, and I will pause to give you a couple of seconds to think about at least 2 bad habits that have been standing in the way of you building up positive momentum towards your goals and what those triggers are, and also to identify the positive habits that you would like to implement. And then we can move into thinking through some triggers that you can set up to make sure that you get it done. So as we continue in our session, as it relates to positive habits and positive behavior change, I'm going to give you some strategies to implement those. But we definitely want to find the not so good that keeps coming up for us so we can interrupt it by stopping the triggers that cause us to take that routine action in the first place. So I'll pause for about 30 seconds to give you a chance to write it down, think it through, or maybe drop it in the chat. All right. So looking through now to see what some of your comments have been. So I'm seeing procrastination. Um, I'm also seeing procrastination and time management from Shakira. More time management, poor time management, bad spending habits, not following the budget, time management and not being fully focused, implementation around the budget that you set. Sharon, tell me if I got that right. Jan said that, hitting the snooze, starting an exercise program and then stopping, lacking the drive to continue. Got you. So some of the examples that I use seem to align with most of the challenges that we have around goal setting. So you have to identify what the negative habit is. And if you don't have it yet, don't go any further until you figure out the negative habit that is stopping you from taking action. You have to give yourself time to understand yourself. Now, we want to set the goals and we want to be audacious and we want to be bold and we want to be braggadocious with it. That's a Jamaican word. If anybody here is not Jamaican, it just means to be. So we want to be that kind of way with the goals that we have. But if you understand yourself, you're wasting time setting goals, you know. And too many of us do not understand who we are, but we get up every day setting goals for self. You set a goal for self, and self is looking at the goal like, who that for? Because don't you understand what our routines are? And if you're not change our routine, how we're going to accomplish that? If you don't understand what the trigger is, how you're setting me up to fail at this goal? Do you know me? So the more you know yourself is the more you can be smart. The smart goal setting is not just about specific and measurable and achievable, and it's not about that alone. That's part of it. But the first layer of smart, the first layer of wisdom, the first layer of strategy is knowing who you are. And that's why even in our Success Farmers Guide, which is our planner, we don't get to the goal planning and the goal setting until we've done the assessment and the review of self. Because if you don't know who self is and where self is, it's stress. You're going to stress out a little self, you know, to set up goals for a person that does not yet exist, to set up goals for an environment that has not yet been properly created, to set up goals for a mindset that still has not shifted to believe that this thing is even possible or you are worth it. And another way that you could be wasting time is you're setting goals that are below your potential. Mine, I think, is always a too high. You set your hat, you know. Sometimes because we don't know who we are, we're not tracking the work that we're doing, and we're not seeing how consistent and successful we have been. We're undervalue. We lowball yourself with an offer. And I don't want you to be lowballing, setting low goals because you don't understand yourself, right? Throughout 2023. Neither do I want you to be overreaching. You know, I believe in excellence and going the extra mile, right? But I don't believe in setting unreasonable goals that are unlikely to actually get accomplished. You have to understand yourself. So if you've not yet done a life audit, we have a free life audit coaching that we did. It's up on YouTube. You can actually search it in my videos. If you go to the live tab, it's one of the lives that you will see there. Do the life audit and assess yourself if you're not sure who you are and what would work for you, where you are failing and need to do a little work, where you're doing well and probably can just maintain a momentum and a rhythm while you build up in other areas. I need you to understand yourself. Now, I'm seeing John saying that social media keeps me from studying. I'm glad you raised that, because for me, that was one of my negative triggers. When I spoke about procrastination, there's another thing that I recognized that happened before I decided not to take action on a goal. Get ready? I would open social media. I remember this is like from 2015, 2016, so that by 2017, I said, no, man, year of discipline. But I would open Instagram or Facebook, because those were the apps I was using at the time. And I would scroll and see what so many people were doing and accomplishing. I mean, from academic accomplishments to career advancement, to travel, to assets that they're amassing. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, there is no way from where I am I could do anything that allows me to level up significantly in some of these areas. So I better me just go and do me, because I can't step up the things so fast. Like there is just no way I could do it. And so when I saw the scale and the pace at which people were working, I felt discouraged because I did not think I had it in me to do that. Because how can I be where I am and end up there? Like I've not even seen the path. I've not even seen the way. I've not even seen the footsteps in the sand. How am I going to get there? It's because I got to stress out myself. And so I would close the app and just decide not to do the new thing, not to do the big thing, not to do the challenging thing, not to level up and get working on my goals. So I would give up after I went on social media. I would procrastinate after I went on social media. So when I recognize that, come here, trap the trigger, I know what happens to me before I decide that I'm going to procrastinate and lame up myself. That's one of the things that happened. I was either tired or I had just gone on social media and consumed information that did not inspire and encourage and empower me, or at least I wasn't framing it in a way that could empower me to take action. And so I had to go on a hiatus. I had to trim down the time that I was spending online. And at the time, thankfully, I wasn't operating any kind of businesses that required me to be on social media. So I was able to pull back, set up and get my work done. But the more you know about yourself is the more you can triggers that cause you to get distracted, cause you to be discouraged, and ultimately lead you to procrastinating and poorly managing your time. So reminding you to do that free life audit if you have not done it as yet. Now is a perfect time. It is not too late in the year to audit yourself and see what you have been doing over the last 12 months and decide where you're going to key in and be laser focused month by month or quarter by quarter to improve your outcomes for 2023. So remember, that's the first thing. We're going to identify the behavior, the target behavior, whether it is the negative behavior that we want to stop or the positive behavior that we want to start. That's important because it helps you to get focus. You're not just saying, I want to get better. I want to get more serious. I want to get more disciplined. What you're saying is, I need to stop allowing social media to discourage me so I procrastinate on my goals. That's what you need to be able to say. When people ask you, well, why aren't you achieving your goals? You know, the reason I've been struggling with this particular goal is I'm an impulsive shopper and I continue to leave my home with my card and all my cash without a spending plan. And for this year, if I don't have a spending plan, I will not walk with anything to spend. I will walk with just the taxi fare or just the gas or just something to buy a bottle of water. In fact, not even pocket money me now walk with. I go catch up the bottle of my yard, go on the road and come back. So I make it so that I have no spend days because I know it's an impulsive spend. And if I go up on the road with my money, it is going to spend. Right? I know the trigger. I know that after I open my bank account on payday, when I see all the money, that is the day when I believe that I can buy down the world. And so to manage myself and that particular bad habit of overspending, one of the first things I do is transfer out the money to different accounts so that I can pay this bill, so that I can pay this debt, so I can put this to savings and leave only what is left so that when it's time for me to shop down the world, I would have responsibly allocated my funds already and I don't end up with a shortfall. But you have to understand yourself You have to know the behavior that you're trying to cut out and the behavior that you're trying to build in. It helps you to focus your effort. It is going to increase your effectiveness when it comes on to determining an intervention, because that's what we need, you know. When we need to plug in a good habit or take out a bad one is an intervention. So knowing exactly what the behavior is that you're trying to target and the triggers that lead you to that behavior, you can be targeted and focused and more effective when you decide on a strategy. It's also important to understand the behavior and what causes it so that you can sustain the change more effectively. So what you don't want is to just start the year on a high with all the biggest intentions and then immediately stop because the motivation run out. We can't be depending on motivation. We need strategy, we need routine, we need system, we need process, we need habit. And you can only build a habit in a particular way, which includes having the right triggers. If it's a positive habit you want, you need to set up the right triggers. Every habit that you have is built on a system of triggers. And another thing we will talk about, which is rewards, right? So that's the first thing I want you to embrace. The need for us to create or to identify rather the systems that are necessary to interrupt the triggers and the habits. Now, the other thing I want you to consider doing is what we call self-monitoring. Now, self-monitoring, again, is a critical component of behavior change because you have to be watching what you're actually doing. Now, this is where some people really drop short, right? They don't want to watch themselves. They don't want to watch and track themselves. You will watch and track somebody else's behavior and keep tabs on how much time they walk in the room and never say sorry. You will keep tabs on how much time they leave the kitchen sink full and don't wash a plate. You will keep tabs on how much time they leave the toilet seat up versus when you ask them to take it down. You'll keep tabs on how much money they owe you. You keep tabs on how much room as their ear. You keep tabs on how much time they wear a blouse there. You keep tabs on how much person your ears they there with. You just keep tabs, right? It's very easy to open up tabs on other people. But you see when it's time to open up tabs for yourself, stress out, don't have no time, don't know where to start, can't bother. You have to be taking your life more seriously. As serious as you take monitoring other people's behavior, is so serious, if not more, you have to take monitoring your own behavior. And so inside our Success Farmers Guide, what we have is a self-monitoring system. And that's what we call our essential action tracker. And we've made it very, very beautiful so that when you're doing the work, the beauty will come out, right? The beauty will shine through and you'll be able to see how you're making progress and what that progress is tangibly looking like for you. If you're not doing self-monitoring, you can't track, you can't measure, you can't know that in week 1, you were 100% disciplined and committed, but in week 2, it fell from 100% discipline and consistency to 66%. And you can identify where the 66% came from and how you lose the other 34%. What was the trigger? What was the thing that made you unprepared? Who was the person? Where you go? Self-monitoring helps you to transform your behavior. If you are not monitoring your progress, your movement, your lack of progress, you cannot sustain any kind of change, positive change in your life. Remember, you're working against what was an old pattern and an old way of thinking and an old way of doing things. So quite naturally, it will feel easy to fall back into the old rhythm and the old pattern. Let me give you an example now that people can readily locate. Let's say you break up with somebody. Whatever the circumstance of the breakup, you tell yourself that this is it. But now talk to them again. But I'm not with them again because whatever. Them crosses in my life. Amen. Whatever the song is that you're singing in your head. But you have decided that you are done, finished, finito, kaput. One of the first things that you're going to have to do, if you realize that it is a little bit too easy to want to go back in the relationship and to want to talk back to them and to want to have a relationship with them, one of the things you're going to have to do is identify what is causing you, what is triggering you to do that. So for you, the trigger could be when you get a message from them. And so you have to cut out that trigger. You have to block them from WhatsApp. For you, another trigger could be seeing them pop up on your timeline on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. That's a trigger. When you see them post something and you look on them and you scroll through time and you read the caption, you feel that the feelings them start come up again, right? So you have to block them from this because that is a trigger. You understand your triggers, right? Because you're serious about not going back there. Who don't serious, not gonna even recognize what happening. They're gonna just fall back into the flow and same old pattern. But once we have decided that this is the end of it and we are done, you start looking for the reasons that cause you to feel a particular way, because you don't decide, say you don't want to feel a way again. You've made a decision that you're not going back there, you're not doing it one more time. So anything that causes you to feel contrary to what your intention is, you're going to make the necessary changes to cut out that trigger so it don't trigger you to go back into those feelings, into those habits, into those conversations. Until eventually, with no triggers left, you're not getting that kind of relapse of emotion or sentiment or desire for that person. Anytime you're supposed to cut something off, to be done with it, to move on from it, there will be triggers that remind you of the familiarity, of the comfort, of the easiness, and of course, romanticizing what you used to have. Like when I used to be able to eat chicken, I say one of the things I used to love about chicken was, and you romanticize the thing, right? You forget that another consequence of chicken is that they had it on all kinds of hormones. And when you eat the chicken, your belly would hurt you from now till a morning. And when you see a period, it's cramping from now till the end of the cycle, right? You know all the things that come with the experience of eating the chicken or the egg or the dairy, But when you are moving away from it deliberately and choosing to change, the brain won't go back or romanticize things used to be nice when you did it. So when I used to sleep in, I could have sleep, I'm not worry about an alarm, wake me up and the sun just wake me up naturally. Yeah. But when you come out of the bed though, you're short of breath because you need to get up and exercise, don't it? Remember the fullness of the experience and what you were losing by staying in that rhythm and staying in that pattern. So if you recognize the trigger sometimes is a thought, the trigger is a smell, you have to go stop with the perfume. Right? You have to stop think that thought that the minute you see that thought, they come up and a memory, they come up. You have to find another memory to replace it. Where you're going, because it is better than where you're coming from and you're not going back there. Whatever the thing is that you're trying